Good evening. I would like to call the business meeting of the Portland Board of Public Education to order. It is Tuesday, March 7th, 2017. The Portland Board of Public Education is meeting at City Hall and Council Chambers. May I please ask the superintendent to call the roll?
Ms. Seeliger?
Here.
Ms. Vendel?
Here.
Ms. Hatzenbuehler?
Here.
Ms. Davis? Ms. Thompson?
Here.
Ms. Morioni?
Here.
Mr. Eder?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Presente.
Ms. Donato?
Here.
Ms. Farah? She was here. Okay. Ms. Hassan? Mr. Siegel? And Chair Trevorrow.
Here, and Ms. Davis did let us know this evening she has a broken foot and unfortunately is not able to attend. And we do have Ms. Farah with us. She'll be joining us back shortly. May I please ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the report of the chair this evening, I wanted to keep it brief because we do have a packed agenda, but I just wanted to remind the board that as we are heading full swing here into the heat of budget season, we are also continuing to keep track of our CIP proposal. Last week on Thursday, the City Finance Committee met and reviewed the CIP. The package that they're recommending has $2.5 million allocated for the public schools. It's about half of what we had originally proposed, and they will be taking action on that at their next Finance Committee meeting, at which point it will go back to City Council and will be expected to finalize that in late March. And we do not have a report of the students this evening. Moving on to report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Portland Public Library is one of our most important community partners in helping further our students' education. In the summer, PPL's summer reading program serves young readers throughout the greater Portland community and is vital in helping students achieve critical reading milestones and stopping the summer slide. PPL's Bookmobile makes almost daily visits to our elementary schools, and PPL staff can always be counted on to provide an enthusiastic cheering section for Casco Bay High School as they march down Congress Street each December in the cold to mail their college applications at the post office. We're grateful to the Portland Public Library for all that it does to support our students, and we look forward to a continued successful collaboration. And so for that reason, we're particularly happy when we're able to do something in return. And the Portland Public Schools and the Portland Public Library are finalizing details on a plan to temporarily house the library's Peaks Island branch at Peaks Island Elementary School during renovations that will be happening in the library building. The plan calls for cordoning off a separate entrance, classroom, and a restroom at the school for use as the library's temporary home for collections and small-scale programming during the library's open hours. The exact dates are not yet determined, but the time frame likely will be this spring through late fall of 2017. I would like to thank Peaks Island School teacher leader Renee Serio and her staff for their assistance in making this transition possible. The collaboration will allow the library to continue full service to the island community, and our students will benefit from special programming. Tonight, I'd like to recognize two longtime Portland Public School educators who passed away in February. Thomas and Catherine Bucci, who both reached the age of 90, taught scores of our students and served as mentors for other educators in their combined 60-plus years of teaching in our district. They also were the parents of our district's gifted and talented coordinator, Kathleen Ball, so their educational legacy in the Portland Public Schools continues to this present day. Catherine Bucci began teaching in 1968 at Presumpscot Elementary School and also taught at Reiki and Lyseth before retiring. She loved teaching first graders because she was able to give them the gift of lifelong literacy. When she mentored new teachers, she would share her philosophy of teaching. Expect nothing, and that is what you will get. Expect great things, and that is what you will see. Thomas Bucci was a pianist, composer, and educator who had a long and varied musical career. Our district was fortunate to have him as our instrumental music supervisor for 30 years, starting in 1951. He also conducted the Portland High School Band and Orchestra. His former students recalled him as inspiring them to excel beyond what they believed was possible. Married for more than 67 years, Thomas and Catherine Bucci were devoted to each other and died within 2 days of each other. We extend our heartfelt condolences to Kathy Ball and her family and want to express our gratitude to the Buccis for their decades of passionate dedication and service to the students in the Portland Public Schools. Now, I had a recognition for Pam, Bessie, and Gretchen Scales, and I don't think they're here yet. So we are going to try to find a good time later in the agenda to come back and do that. But before I conclude, I would like to try to do take two on a recognition that I messed up at last week's meeting. So as many of you recall, we recognized the Portland High School Civil Rights Team, and we also attempted to recognize the Deering High School Human Rights class. But unfortunately, they were not here then. It turns out that we got our wires crossed, and we asked them to be here today, and I'm really glad that they actually came when we asked them to, and they are here today. Not only did the Human Rights class under the guidance of teacher Kirsten Platt help to organize the Unity event at Deering on February 3rd, but this group was instrumental in working with board member Jenna Vendil on drafting the hate speech resolution that is being considered by the board tonight. As I said last week, when I interviewed for this job last spring, I had the opportunity to meet with students at Deering, and I was incredibly impressed by the depth of the students' understanding of the importance of their role in leadership. These students have demonstrated that they are leaders, that they are thinkers, and that they have a powerful voice to make a difference. So thank you for being here. Thank you for standing up for each other, your brothers and sisters at Casco Bay, and for what is right. So we have a certificate. And with that, I would like to call Principal Dawn Keniston from Hall Elementary School. Dawn is going to share her school success plan with us today. And Dawn, welcome. Mr. John Dickerson, Assistant Principal, is also going to be presenting.
She said we have a handout and then a short video to show some of what's going on at the school at the end.
And we're going to try to project the handout that we just shared for people in the audience.
Open the window.
So as many of you know, Hall School is in a big transition in terms of moving in and building and creating a new learning environment for students. In addition to that, it has new administrative leadership, John and I both being new within the last 3 years. So last year in our time together there, we really did a lot of assessing and working with the staff to identify what the strengths were of Hall School, and there are many, and what the unmet needs were and instructional needs. And so we felt this summer when we went into our school success plan development that we were in a really good place to work with staff and clearly define our path for this year. Hall School is a school of 382 students. 17% are English language learners, 16% are special ed, 48% are free and reduced, 49% are male, 51% are female, 73% are neighborhood classrooms, and 26% are in the Many Rivers program. 4% are attending out of network, so are in Hall School, but not necessarily in living within the neighborhood. We, in a team of staff, very well-representative team of staff this summer, met to identify our priority areas for the school success plan and identified three areas for growth. One was literacy, and we wanted to establish a goal that we would increase the number of students making high growth in both high-achieving and low-achieving student populations by 20% as measured by the fall to spring CPAA and NWEA assessments. Those are the standardized assessments used for primary and used for intermediate level students. Our second priority area was in math, and we want to increase the number of students making high growth in both the high-achieving and low-achieving student populations by 20% as measured by these same two instruments, the CPAA and the NWEA. Our third priority was the one that we probably had the most conversation about, and as you may or may not know, in many elementary schools, management of children, how you create your culture, how you handle discipline, how you set up your expectations is something that is always how you help with social emotional development is on our minds constantly. And so we decided that we wanted to target student engagement as our third priority, because we believe, and all of the research tells us, that if students are engaged at a high level, they will be successful, more likely to be successful. So we, with intentionality, teach engagement. We want to teach engagement strategies to students and monitor the level of student engagement using attendance, behavior, and survey data. So that's where we started. And we have some data from last year and data for this year so far that we'd like to share with you.
So we took the NWEA scores from last year's fall to spring to see what type of growth students were making. And that is what's listed here from K to 5. The percentages of students who made more than what is expected growth. So that would be considered high growth. The number in parentheses for K to 2 are the number of students who made growth using half the gap, which is the proposed measure for the teacher evaluation system. I added that on this slide because some of these numbers look very low, but when I was actually looking at the numbers, there's a large group of students who just missed that mark. Their improvement was such, but they were just under meeting that high growth mark. So this shows a little bit better some of the growth that was being made by that population. They weren't hitting that same benchmark that we're using within the student growth plan, but we're still growing. To provide information for this update, I went back to our previous years and looked at the fall to winter growth to compare what we see this year, because we have our winter numbers now, and looked at what our fall to winter was for this year, and if that same pattern holds true as previous years, project out where we will be in the spring. So the top, in the middle section, the top box where we were is last year's. The where we are is where we scored on our winter benchmarks, the number of students who made high growth fall to winter. Then on the right is what we would project for the spring. So below that, the colorful one is those changes. So that's the goal where we were expecting the plus 20% is our goal in all 12 of the areas, but the CPAA data is a lot tougher to get and manipulate. The NWEA is easier. That's why you only see 3 to 5. The CPAA needs to go student by student. So in third grade math, we're projecting a 26.6, which would be down from a 34% last year, which would be a decrease of 7.5% of students making high growth. However, in reading, we have an increase of 4.7% students. So that's 5% more students making that high growth mark than made it the previous year. Fourth grade math, an increase of 12.4%, 15.8% in reading. Math in fifth grade, 28.6% more students this year are making that high growth mark than made it last year, and 4% in reading in fifth grade. This shows me that we have mixed results. There's some areas we still need to focus on and really get into, and math in third grade is one. It's also interesting that math had our highest number in there in fifth grade. So math is both kind of the strongest strong and the weakest weak in that same category. I was very happy to see that all of 3 of the reading indicators were positive. The 2 that are in yellow aren't as high as we'd like them to be for the middle of the year, but the year's not done yet, and these are projections based on half a year's worth of data, so I would expect them to move a little bit. But this was very encouraging, I think, at least for me, to see that we had double-digit growth in 3 of the 6 areas that I looked at to analyze where we were in the winter, and 1 well above the 20% mark and 1 closing in on it pretty quick. So this helps us to see where exactly we need to focus more of our time and resources as we look to finishing out the year at Hall.
So in summarizing, the strengths of Hall School that we wanted to make sure we emphasized for you are how caring and compassionate the staff is. In my career, I've never worked with people that were so really genuinely caring and concerned about the welfare of every student, and every student at Hall School belongs to every staff member. There's an openness to recognize that there's room for improvement and growth, and a commitment to really work collaboratively to see how we can become stronger. And the looking forward to the new building and all of the positive energy and excitement about renewed focus and creating a learning environment for students that could be truly state-of-the-art. In terms of our needs, we've identified the need for an instructional coach or a teacher leader to help us to continue to lift curriculum, instruction, and assessment with staff members. We have done tremendous with the support of technology, our technology department. We've done tremendous lifting of technology, and have reached a 1-to-4 ratio with Chromebooks, so we're really excited about that and the support that we've had in that process. We continue to look for opportunities for professional development in everyday math, and the reading writing workshop, both for ed techs and new staff, but also for our staff that are working on those implementations currently. And also our English language learner population has really grown enormously, and so we are looking for additional support for that population in the upcoming school year. And if we looked at generally our identified weaknesses, students moving in and out of the area, we have a problem with chronic tardiness and attendance that we are working very hard to monitor. A large number of students are in need of focused intervention, and the new building takes time, although it's very positive time, but it causes us to have to constantly juggle our learning opportunities with our focus on some of the operational aspects of building a new school that can be wonderful but challenging. John and I talked about what would be the best way to represent the work that's going on, and in a short, brief way, and give you a little window into Hall School. And so John created a video of our TAG program, and I'm going to let John talk about that.
So we're in our second year with TAG, which is Targeted Accelerated Growth, and it is the first half hour of the day, 4 days a week. Everything stops and all adults take a small group of students. So whether you're a teacher, an ed tech, a specialist, all available adults are working with a small group of students on a targeted literacy intervention. So grade levels meet to determine what the needs are, then group students, not necessarily in the same classes, but in terms of what they need for the same need literacy-wise. And then we reduce that ratio and spend half an hour aimed right at that individual skill. We go through 4 sessions a year, so we constantly assess to create the groups, deliver the intervention, reassess, then the grade levels look back at the students and say, okay, did that skill get up to where it needs to be? What's the next skill on the list that needs to be addressed? And so we took some video of what tag time looks like at our school and have that for you.
Any questions?
Ms. Morioni?
Thank you to both of you for doing this. Information is great, and I appreciate the data. I just wanted to ask about when you said you're working also on the attendance. Can you give some suggestions on what types of interventions you might be using around improving attendance? Because I know some of our other elementary schools have been using like early like Rise and Shine programs, or some way to get the kids there enthusiastic about going to school. Anything like that happening at Hall?
Sure.
So I've worked with Susan Lieberman and Count Me in previous positions as well as my time at Hall, and we're looking at starting a walking school bus that's really going to target some of our students who we know live nearby. And so it wouldn't be a walking school bus to a bus stop like in some of the other buildings, but really targeting those students who we could get walking to school. In addition, developing a team that will be focused on looking at the attendance data regularly to kind of case manage some of those most chronic students and really divide them up and say, we see this trend happening, you're going to go check in with the teacher, check in with the parents, and really work on addressing it that way. We know that Ocean Avenue has had success with that, and so we're looking at what they've done to kind of build our system at Hall to address those same issues.
We're also following the recommendation of, for children that are absent for a day or two, consistently, that the teacher reaches out and makes a call to check in and see how things are and let them know how much they're missed. And then after a certain level of absences for John and I, too, to get involved in a supportive way. And we also have a woman named Miss Ann Taliento, and she is our greeter, and she's an ed tech who's been at Hall for a really long time, and she literally stands out in front of our building every morning and welcomes every child who enters our play area in the most enthusiastic way that I've ever seen. And finally, one other point that I think is really important: no matter what time kids come to school, we are just so excited and enthusiastic to welcome them in rather than question, why they're late or where they've been. So we try to really emphasize how much they're missed when they're not there.
Ms. Thompson?
I don't have a question per se, and I love this format. Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, for the audience and/or newer school board members, can you just tell them what Many Rivers program is? And then I've never seen Out of Network. I've seen that for Out of Network for phone, but Out of Network, you mean out of
Neighborhood.
Neighborhood. Okay. Can you just tell a little bit snippet about what Many Rivers is?
Sure. Many Rivers is a program that has been open to all students in the city of Portland for over 30 years. When it was created, it was a program of choice and with very unique components that weren't necessarily found in other elementary schools. Those included things like multi-age instruction, project-based learning, a lot of parent involvement, a lot of curriculum flexibility for teachers. And when it started, it was highly sought after throughout the district because of its cutting-edge approach to education. And at that time, there were percentages of students from each neighborhood that were invited, or anybody could apply, but then there was a lottery, and the composition was based on making sure there was representation from all of the neighborhoods. Over time, as we've all grown and learned about education, you'll find a lot of those qualities, those elements in all of our elementary schools. And Many Rivers today is much more of a neighborhood program, although it's still open to anyone in the district that would like to attend. But currently, about 75% of the children that do attend are Hall School neighborhood children.
Several of the video clips also weren't just neighborhood, they were Many Rivers and neighborhood and mixed together. So.
And you've done a great job over the last few years integrating the two. Having had a child that went through Hall, there used to be a real differentiation between the two, and a lot of more merging that has happened over the years. So I think that's great. I also just want to commend you, Dawn, as well as your staff, with regards to the situation of the building that you're in and what's to come. And I know all of the work with Ms. Morioni, myself, and Ms. Davis being on the building committee for the new Hall School. thanking you ahead of time with what's to come, with a lot of challenges, and still the challenges that your staff have had over the years with the fire and everything else, and still plugging away and doing everything that they had. I think the scores, when you get a beautiful environment, probably will just go through the roof even more so when you have 21st century learning and not have to look at buckets in the hallway. So I just want to thank your staff for putting up with that, and I'm excited for them to have a new environment, and thank them ahead of time for the challenges that will be coming very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
I also want to thank Ms. Keniston and Mr. Davidson for the presentation. I know, Dawn, that you've been doing a tremendous amount of work this year with new building coming online, and there's a tremendous amount of work added onto your plate because of that. So I want to thank you for that. I also know that you are taking on the challenge of trying to create a new hall as it opens as a new building with much clearer integration between the hall and the Many Rivers program, and I think that you're going about that in an amazing way, and I just want to recognize you for that and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
We do. Okay, I'm going to go back to my report, and I see that Pam and Gretchen have arrived, so thank you. I know that we told you to be here at 7, and you were here at 7, so it's not on you. It's just that our schedule moved a little bit quicker. So I would like to recognize Pam Bessie and Gretchen Scales. Pam is the school's, it's Deering School's Jobs for Maine's Graduates Expanded Learning Opportunities Coordinator, and Gretchen is the Jobs for Maine's Graduates Specialist. Jobs for Maine's Graduates, or JMG, is a statewide private nonprofit that works within Maine's public schools to help students reach their fullest potential. JMG is funded through an Ellie Mae Foundation grant, and Pam and Gretchen do a tremendous amount of work to provide a range of services to Deering students and staff that are truly, truly amazing. Pam's primary job is to provide connections between Deering and the community. This is evident in so many ways, whether it be the job shadowing or the volunteer opportunities or inviting guest speakers to classroom. Pam has spearheaded the Career and College Expo for students, not just from Deering, but from all 3 of our high schools, which is held at the University of Southern Maine. She also started a financial literacy fair at Deering, organizing all aspects of it. This year, she's helping to organize college visits for all of the sophomores. She's also developing a curriculum for interviewing during Deering coaching, and is planning with Rotary volunteers to conduct interviews that will then be followed by a summer job fair. Pam plays a key role in the senior capstones at Deering, helping students to make connections within the community and then supporting them through their internships. She also has been the advisor for the President's Council, running elections and overseeing Spirit Week activities. Under her guidance, students created and distributed an optional teacher evaluation that students complete in their classes. Pam is a huge part of the Global Issues curriculum, where students perform 6 hours of community service. She models the spirit of community involvement by often attending events with her students. Gretchen, her commitment to the JMG students goes well beyond the classroom walls. On any given day, Gretchen can be found volunteering with students at Preble Street Soup Kitchen, the Ronald McDonald House, or any number of other volunteer organizations. She works tirelessly to expose her students to experiences outside of the classroom or bring in classroom speakers to share their professional knowledge. For example, during the class unit on leadership and JMG Career Association elections, she organized visits from Mayor Ethan Strimling, City Councilor Justin Costa, and former State Senator Ann Haskell. Last fall, UNAM recognized the leadership skills Gretchen was instilling in her students and invited her class to lead a building workshop for staff development of UNAM staff. Last year, the JMG class, under Gretchen's guidance, wrote a successful Portland Education Foundation grant to create the Ramilly Market, which provides food, clothing, and toiletries to Deering students coping with food insecurity or lacking basic necessities. Gretchen's energy and positive outlook inspires students and Deering faculty members. She's always ready and willing to pitch in to make Deering a better place to learn and work. We're grateful, most grateful, to JMG, but especially to Gretchen and Pam for all that you do. We're very, very fortunate to have you in our schools, and we congratulate you both for this well-deserved recognition.
Thank you. We're very appreciative of it. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Normally do.
No, that's all I'm supposed to say.
Thank you.
Just very quickly, I saw that Kathy Ball is in the back of the room. Kathy, I don't know if you heard our recognition of your parents. You did? Okay, thank you. Our hearts go out to you. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. And I'm actually going to jump backwards here in the agenda because we do have a student report tonight. We have Casco Bay High School.
Hello? Okay. Check. Okay. First of all, I'd like to start by saying it's so nice seeing so many beautiful faces. We don't get that a lot, and it's just really reassuring to see that people are actually engaging with their community because this is really important. So I have a brief school report, and I'd like to start by saying that winter grades are closing at Casco by this Friday, so it's been a really stressful week for most. Casco also has plans to expand because, in case you guys don't know, our grade level, our population has expanded to 400, and our space does not really show that. So we're planning on expanding the space so that students could have more open areas to work on their academics, but also like we don't have a cafeteria, so like we need things like many other schools do. In the regards to student body, the sophomore class is working on Arc Towards Justice, which is an expedition that is focusing on looking at marginalized people in the nation of America and figuring out ways to go about solving national issues through art. The juniors have just concluded and culminated public policy, which is a time where students have learned about governmental issues and get to focus their subject area on one topic and learn about government and policy and create their own solutions to them. Students engage this through presenting to a panel of experts, and we just culminated, which is really nice. Right now, my junior class is working on Junior Journey, which is a very exciting time at Casco Bay High School, where we get to learn about the city of Detroit, and not only that, but the background issues of economics in our country and racism and a lot of systems that are not designed in favor for most. And we're going to go to Detroit this year and uncover the stories, hidden stories of people who live in Detroit and the issues they face every day. In regards to the senior class has just finished their senior expedition, or culminating, which is a time when seniors they get to decide a topic of research of study, and the seniors work rigorously and very hard, and figure out a way to share their knowledge and their new findings to the community by creating their own events. As I think Ms. Thompson knows, the seniors are pretty stressed, but they're working really hard, effortlessly all the time. I would like to end my report by talking about a teacher, a staff, Ms. Ahmed, who created this calendar, which I helped work on with many other students, called Celebrating Africa. The reasoning behind creating this calendar was that students felt that they didn't really have a way to connect to their roots back home, since we're focused all on our academics on American education, American educational system. And so this calendar, in a way, brought back to us home, in a sense. And it's just really touching that a teacher like her can touch so many lives, not even in regards to race, but everyone's lives. Surprisingly, I'm not even surprised, but she was called on the Ellen Show and was given $22,000, and that recognition really brought home for us, because it just proved to the student body that anything is possible. And yeah, that concludes my school report. Thank you.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. Moving into report of the secretary. Consideration and action to approve the meeting minutes of February 2017. Is there a motion? Ms. Seeliger, seconded by Ms. Morioni. Are there any questions on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Thompson.
Are you doing the 21st right now and then the 28th?
I think we have them as two separate motions, yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll wait for the 28th. Thank you.
Okay. Any board discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes of February 21st, 2017, so indicate. It's unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. And now, on to consideration and action to approve the meeting minutes of February 28, 2017. Is there a motion? Ms. Seeliger, Ms. Hatzenbuehler, seconded by Ms. Vendel. Any questions on the meeting minutes? Seeing none. Any public comment on the meeting minutes? Seeing none. Any board discussion? Ms. Thompson.
Thank you. Under report of the chair, it talks about inviting Assistant Superintendent Crocker to provide an update on the transgender guidance. And it said USDA, which is the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And I think that was supposed to be U.S. Department of Education and Justice. So if we could just fix that. And then just a request, we've had some emails come through from concerned citizens with regards to the transgender conversation. And I'm hoping that we can post somewhere on the website and or make it part of the meeting minutes, the letter that Ms. Crocker put together, because I think there's a lot of great information in there that I've been trying to articulate through to people through email and phone calls, but if they could have it as well, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. That's good feedback, and I'm seeing nods on that. So, any other discussion on the meeting minutes? All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes of February 28th with that amendment? It's unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. Okay. Moving into report of the committees. Curriculum, Ms. Morioni.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to report that we are just going to be changing our next meeting of the Curriculum Committee from March 14th to March 29th at 6 p.m. in Central Office. Did you hear that part? We're going to be changing our meeting from March 14th to March 29th.
Okay.
So just wanted to report that. Thank you.
Thank you. Operations, Ms. Davis is not here. I don't believe we have anybody filling in for her tonight. Finance Committee, Ms. Hatzenbuehler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance Committee hasn't met since the last meeting. Tonight, the superintendent's going to put forward the budget for next year. And then Thursday, March 9th in Central Office, the Finance Committee will receive and review the budget. Another date of importance is March 14th is a regular finance meeting at 6 o'clock at Central Office. There'll be a budget review and public hearing and a potential vote to send the budget to the board for final approval.
Thank you. Policy, Legislative, and Public Affairs, Ms. Seeliger.
Thank you, Ms. Trevorrow. So we also have our next Policy, Legislative, Public Affairs Committee meeting scheduled for March 14th at 6 p.m. at Central Office. So maybe we can make that all work out, maybe find another room in Central Office. That's on Cumberland Avenue, and we will be discussing the creating the transgender policy at that time. Thank you.
Are you at 7:30?
I thought we were at 6. Are we at 7:30? It's at 6. Okay. So.
We'll just put you in 2 separate rooms.
Cool. I think we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other committee and/or member concerns? Ms. Thompson?
The question, I guess, is to the superintendent. You've worked really, really hard, and the board has voted on the comprehensive plan. And I'm wondering, going forward after this, if we can, in our executive summaries, remove that it's a framework, since it's now a real plan. Throughout all of our, when it was a framework, we used that, but now, since it is a live, active plan, I just ask that we just start removing the word framework. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Morioni?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to let the public know that the City Council will be meeting on our referendum recommendation on March 20th here in Council Chambers at, I believe, 5 p.m. on the 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member concerns? Seeing none, moving on to consent items. Would the superintendent please read the items into consent?
Yes, Lincoln Middle School received gift cards from Mikuchi's Grocery Store of Portland. Lincoln Middle School also received T-shirts for students and staff for their Ripple Effect field trip from Owen Kelly of Westbrook. Peaks Island Elementary School received produce for their clean plate presentation from Dirigo Wholesale of Portland. And Paths received a 2009 Toyota Corolla LE from Joshua Bradford of Lisbon and Lisa Bradford of Oldsmar, Florida. So thank you to all of these patrons for their generosity.
Thank you. Moving into old business, we have consideration and action to adopt policy KB, School and Family Partnership Policy. Is there a motion? Ms. Vendel, seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. Is there a staff presentation?
There is not a staff presentation, but Ms. Angela Atkinson Duenas is here to speak to the consideration and action.
Hello. All right. So I'm back again to present the proposed school and family partnership policy as a shared vision for our district. It's a combination of the efforts and best thinking of an outside community group, Portland Empowered, some of whom we have here tonight, and I just have to thank them for getting things started. It's also the work of a committed task force who came at this from a variety of perspectives. Plus the feedback of a number of school groups and community members who took time to give their input during the process. The vision and values in this policy will support our schools and the district as we continue to build inclusive communities where all families are valued and welcomed into important decision-making processes that impact the education of our students. But what I'm really looking forward to at this point is turning to the actual work of implementing and following through on this policy. So I'm hoping that after tonight that'll be possible.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, I would open public comment on the motion. State your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay. My name's Lisa Whited. I live at 45 Heather Road, and I am very proud to be here tonight. I served on the ad hoc committee with my colleague Noah Lesk, who unfortunately cannot be here, but we were the representatives from Portland Empowered. I'm a lead parent organizer with the group. And don't really need to repeat what Angela said because she always says things so well, but it is a culmination of a very inclusive process that we used. And many parents were involved over the past year, and they're the parents that you don't normally hear from, the ones that don't look like me. And I was so honored to be involved, and I'm so excited and proud to be a parent in Portland with 3 kids in our schools, one who graduated from PHS in June. And I simply want to say that Portland is connected, authentic, secure, sustainable, equitable, and dynamic. And we are connected, especially, and equitable and secure. Those are the 3 words that I see this important school board doing, and what this policy will allow us to continue to do for all of our children, to bring the people we need to have here to create a viable, wonderful place to live for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whited.
Hi, my name is Noelle Leah, and I also don't want to repeat anything that anybody said, but I joined Portland Empowered about 2 years ago, and the reason I joined was specifically for the parent engagement group, not because I'm a parent, but because I have siblings that are still in the Portland public school system. I was also in the public school system, and so that was my interest. But little did I know what this group was going to consist of. I feel very honored to have participated in this policy that will be put in place to implement people, to represent people like myself. One of the main reasons why I really love this group is because whether I was a part of it or whether I wasn't, I really do feel that there are people in the group who represent me in the past and me in the future. So to have people like Lisa Whitted on the ad hoc committee is what really this policy means to me. To have somebody like Decca, who could be like my mother, sit there and actually like say things like we need more representation, and that it will be implemented in policy. I think that's the very reason why we should all really support. I know we all support it. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to this matter? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Is there any board discussion? Ms. Thompson?
Just one quick housekeeping, if we could. On page 3, at the bottom, where it has that this policy does not affect or alter the authority.
Thank you for catching that.
I just want to thank you. I think we've had a lot of conversation. It's not working. There we go. I think everyone heard me about this correction on the spelling. Anyway, I just don't want to repeat as well. We've had many conversations about this. I'd like to thank Ms. Hatzenbuehler from the board to represent the board and working on this, as well as the public coming together and doing all of this hard work. And I have to concur with the parent that spoke, the former parent, and how we have challenges that we don't have a lot of representation coming to our meetings of what Portland looks like. And so I think this is a great opportunity. I'm really excited about it. You see this movement as well across the country, and I think that we're at the forefront. And I really appreciate all the time that all of you put into this, and I look forward to bringing you to the table more. Thank you.
Other board comments? Ms. Mendel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also wanted to thank the Portland Empowered group for launching a strong advocacy effort to bring this to the board's attention and to work with our staff to really ensure that our policies reflect the needs of our community. And I also wanted to thank Ms. Hatzenbuehler as well for her leadership and her representation on the task force. All of those nights that you spend attending meetings, making sure that you're spreading the word to other parents. I mean, that takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. And, I feel like this is the least we can do, for all of the work that you've put in. And it's a symbol of what we need to be doing more of as a board and as a district is to really support and empower students, staff, and parents in the work of the education for our school district and community. Thank you.
Ms. Hassan.
Sorry, cold. I would also like to thank you guys for presenting this. My mom was one of the people who was on this task with you guys, and I've seen her work vigorously, and I've never seen her work so hard in my entire life, and it makes me, I'm sorry. And it's just really needed. There's a lack of representation, like that was mentioned earlier, and what this does is not only push that and promote that and empower that, but that also people also fail to see that we are looking up to you guys, and that when we see that there's a lack of something, we want to be able to fill that for you guys. And that's why I'm so encouraged, and so I want to take so much part in my education now because of this, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hassan. Other comments? Ms. Morioni.
I won't repeat what has been said so eloquently, but I just want to say thank you, a huge thank you to USM staff, and although he's not here tonight, to Mr. Pius Ali and to our Grace Valenzuela. But I think this is my 9th year on the board, and I've never felt more proud than this evening when we can come together and let everyone know that this is like a dawn of a new era, I think, for Portland in terms of embracing all cultures, all diversity, and having people sitting with us at the table to solve problems that we can't do alone for our students in Portland. So thank you for all the hard work. And this is now, I want this to turn into action. So hold us accountable, keep us in check, make sure that we are being responsive. So thank you again for all your hard work.
Other comments? Ms. Hatzenbuehler.
Well, what I'm feeling is just gratitude for you guys and the process that we went through. It was an absolute privilege and a highlight of my year last year to work on the ad hoc committee. And if I did the slightest little tiny bit of anything, then I feel proud of that. But mostly I feel like I was just let into a secret that you guys had been working on and creating, and I am grateful for that opportunity. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board comments? I would just echo everything that my colleagues on the board have said so well. This is a very proud moment, I think, for all of us, and thank you to everyone for your hard work on this policy. And with that, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of adopting policy KB, School and Family Partnership Policy, please indicate. It's unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. All right, and moving on to consideration and action to delete policy KBF, parent partnership policy. Is there a motion? Ms. Bendel, seconded by Ms. Hatzenbuehler. Would the superintendent like to speak to this motion?
Yes, briefly. This is this is cleanup. As we have explained before, the original policy that the group addressed was policy KBF. That was a policy that was currently on the books, and it was primarily focused on Title I parent involvement. And when the committee started meeting, they recognized that they were doing work that was broader than just around Title I. So they instead established a policy KB, which you just approved. And so this is really cleanup, just eliminating policy KBF.
Thank you. Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, is there any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of deleting policy KBF, parent partnership policy, please indicate. And it's unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. Next, we have consideration and action to adopt the Seal of Biliteracy resolution. Is there a motion? Ms. Bendel, seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. Do we have a staff presentation on this?
Dr. Valenzuela is going to just present briefly, remind us of what this policy is about. She did an extensive presentation, as you recall, last week at the first reading of the policy, so she's just going to remind us.
Good evening. Just a reminder that the Seal of Biliteracy, and for the audience tonight who may not have heard about this, the Seal of Biliteracy is a formal recognition award by a state department of education or local district awarded to a graduating high school student who has attained proficiency in English literacy and similar skills in one or more other world languages by high school graduation. The recognition of attaining biliteracy becomes part of the high school transcript and diploma for these students. And it is a statement of accomplishment that helps to signal evidence of a student's readiness for career in college and for engagement as a global citizen. Awarding the Seal of Biliteracy constitutes an official statement by the school district that mastery of 2 or more languages is a significant and critical skill set in a global and complex age. The Seal encourages students to pursue biliteracy, whether they are students who learn a language in addition to English or students who have already attained literacy in their heritage language or languages. It honors the language skills our students attain and can be evidence of linguistic skills that are attractive to future employers and college admission officials. And do I read the resolution, or that's it?
We have the resolution in front of us. It was included with our packet, so thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? Seeing none, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of adopting the Seal of Biliteracy resolution, please indicate. It's unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. Okay. Consideration and action to approve the proposed extension of the Ocean Avenue Elementary School Enrollment Management Plan for the 2017-2018 school year and direct staff to develop a plan for the redistricting of the areas under the Hall Elementary and East End Community School boundaries. This plan is to be submitted to the board for approval no later than March 3rd, 2018. Is there a motion? Ms. Morioni, seconded by Ms. Hatzenbuehler. Will the superintendent speak to the motion?
Briefly, and then I'm going to ask Mr. Worth to present on this topic. This is, as you know, an annual event for the board to approve the controlled enrollment, the enrollment management plan for Ocean Avenue. The thing that makes this a little bit different is that this is the last year for the original class. They will be fifth graders going into next year, so we've added some additional steps that will follow, and that's what Mr. Craig Worth is here to brief you on.
Oh, we got to open the window?
Just slide it. Slide it away from you. No, slide. The window.
The left side with your thumb. Push it toward.
There you go. Yeah.
Hi, Craig Worth. I'm the Executive Director of Operations. I seem to be cursed with PowerPoints lately. All right, excuse me. This is the Ocean Avenue School Enrollment Management Program, and to give you a little bit of history of the overcrowding issue at Ocean Avenue. Ocean Avenue Elementary School opened in 2011 with a capacity of 440. That capacity number was based on the student enrollment at Nathan Clifford, and Nathan Clifford. At the start of the second year, which is goodness gracious. All right, I am going to try something different. There we go. Let's see if that works a little bit better. At the second year, fall of 2012, there was estimated that the school would be over capacity by 30 to 50 students. So they started to look at several options were evaluated to reduce the student population at Ocean Avenue. One of the options were expand the capacity of Ocean Avenue. We have one wing that is 1 story. It has the capacity to go 2 stories. That would add a second floor to the school. Do nothing and have larger class sizes. Relocate the beach program from Ocean Avenue. Use the art and music room as regular classroom space. And finally, redistricting. The current enrollment practice started in 2013-2014 school year with the incoming kindergartners redirected to East End Community School or Hall Elementary School. There were exceptions given to incoming kindergartners if they had older siblings at Ocean Avenue. And it continues. This is a, thank you. This is a a map that shows our inland school districts. And I will note that Ocean Avenue, which is the kind of the sandwich colored district with the O drop in it, it touches all our other inland schools districts. You'll see that LT stands for Libbytown, and BS next to the green, which is East End, is Bayside. As I said, it started in 13 and 14 with the kindergartners going to either Hall or East End, and the first and fifth graders ended up at Ocean. If you look up from the bottom to the third bullet point, you see that's where we're currently at now. We're at 2016, 2017. We have kindergartners to third grade going to Easton and Hall. The only remaining students at Ocean are the original fourth and fifth graders. Next year, only the fifth grade will remain. After that, basically, those towns are redistricted. I apologize, it's a little bit hard to read. But what you will see is the number of students for the Ocean, from the Libbytown, there's 48 students attending Ocean. Of that 48 students, 16 are siblings, meaning that they attend Ocean because they have an older student. At Bayside, there are 42 students attending Ocean. Of that 42, 13 are siblings of the original students that remained at Bayside, at the Ocean, excuse me. Moving forward with the Ocean Avenue enrollment plan, basically in 2018, 2019, Bayside and Libbytown will essentially be redistricted from the majority of the students. In 2018 and 19 school year, the original 2012 to 2013 students will graduate to middle school, only leaving the siblings at Ocean Avenue. If those siblings have younger siblings, we will need to determine if they will attend Ocean, and if so, will Portland Public Schools provide transportation. Currently, we have 2 bus routes servicing each management area. So for Libbytown, a bus comes in, picks up students for Ocean Avenue. Another bus comes in at a later time and picks up students for Hall School. The same happens for Bayside. With the opening of the new school in the fall of 2018, staff is recommending redistricting the remaining siblings of Bayside and Libbytown from Ocean Avenue to the new Hall School. Over the next year, the staff will engage the Libbytown and Bayside stakeholders on Ocean Avenue grandfathered students and will then approach the board with a formal recommendation. Have any questions?
Is that opening the fall of 2018 or 2019?
The opening is in, I'm sorry, yes, 2019. That is correct. My apologies. Questions?
Just historical question. So the
Sure.
Town kids would have gone to the Nathan Clifford School? Is that what you were saying? And then when that was closed, they started to go to Ocean Avenue?
Well, Ocean Avenue replaced Clifford and Baxter, my understanding. So when it opened.
Clifford and Baxter?
Correct. Any other questions? Yes.
Just to clarify what the superintendent just asked you, Hall is projected to open fall of 2019, correct?
No, Hall is, they will start construction this fall. Well, they'll do it through this summer.
Right.
And students will be, go through that next. No, it will be fall of 2018, is correct.
Yeah, I think in the Hall Building Committee, it was discussed differently.
What will happen is they'll move the students. At that point, the school will be built. They'll move the students from the old hall to the new, and then they'll tear down the old hall in the summer of 2018 and start building the parking lots as such.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
It's coming on quicker
that's good
than what we
news.
think.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what's happening. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion?
I have one.
Okay, come to the microphone and state your name and address.
I'm Shaughnessy Butler, and I have a child in the school system. My question is, where are the alternatives, as I've seen on the paper, to place the beach program or the special needs programs? Is there any plans to expand the special needs programs in the county? So those are my starting questions.
Is this, does this pertain to the motion before us? We only take public comment on the motion before us, but what I would suggest is perhaps after the meeting, we can connect you with our staff to answer your questions.
Oh, yeah, I saw it on the display screen, and I saw that part on it, so that's why I was replying to that.
Oh, okay.
This, the motion is specifically around Hall School. Ms. Butler, Ms. Mullis, our Special Services Director, is in the room in the back, and she'd be glad to talk to you about your questions now or at the end of the meeting, whatever is better for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Stephen Sharp, Salem Street. I actually fully support this plan of yours. From what little I've seen in the backup material, I missed the presentation. But I also just, I actually think I support the plan to a point. I actually think you need to go much further than that point and contemplate a complete redistricting of all the schools in all the elementary schools and look at them all in totality and not just the essentially the 3 schools. So your motion should be revised to look at all the mainland elementary schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, is there any board discussion on the motion? Ms. Thompson?
At the appropriate time, I have an amendment for the motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
You may offer that now if you'd like.
Okay, I'd like to amend the motion as follows. Consideration action to approve the proposed extension of the Ocean Avenue Elementary School OAES Enrollment Management Plan, it's the longest motion, I think, for the 2017-2018 school year, and direct the superintendent and board appointments committee to appoint an ad hoc committee to develop a plan for the redistricting of the areas under the Hall Elementary and East End Community Schools boundaries. This plan is to be submitted to the board for approval no later than March 3rd, 2018, and I'll speak to it when you would like, if there's a second.
Is there a second? Ms. Hatzenbuehler? And Ms. Thompson, you may speak to the motion.
Thank you.
Captured it. So the only thing you did is change staff to superintendent and board appointments?
No. So direct the superintendent and board appointments committee to appoint an ad hoc committee to develop a, yep, and then the rest of it's the same.
Okay, and you may speak to the motion.
Okay. So I had spoken to the superintendent about it, and very briefly with the chair, asking her to appoint the appointments committee in preparation for the change to this motion. When we built the Ocean Avenue School, to Ms. Seeliger's point, we formed a boundaries ad hoc committee, and it was appointed by the school board at that time, and it consisted of members of staff, as well as school committee and parents from the various neighborhoods that were affected. And at that time, it was Clifford School Neighborhood, as well as the former Baxter School neighborhood, myself, and sorry, I don't know, Ms. Doosan must have jinxed this thing, I guess. But anyway, so at that time, we had the assistant superintendent, multilingual director, Grace Valenzuela, transportation, so on and so forth. And I think to the public's point is we know that there's a larger conversation that's going to take place, although the BFOF did not support a redistricting because it was not seen at that time. Certainly, it's a good idea to take a look at all the above, but first and foremost is to look at this area of redistricting, because we are building the new Hall School, and to Mr. Worth's point of finally in dealing with this enrollment management plan, which Mr. Mavadonis likes to call it redistricting. So we might as well call it that, because that's what we need to do. So I guess my request is to change the motion and then start the ball rolling to have an appointments committee formed with the community and so on and so forth, like I said.
Thank you. So we're on the amendment now, not the main motion. It was by Ms. Hudson-Buehler. Are there questions? Ms. Bendel?
Yes, the clarifying question that I had is actually for the superintendent, and what is the process you would see for if this amendment were to be moved forward, and how would it, I mean, would you be supportive of this, or would you recommend us moving in this direction?
Yeah, I think this is fine. We don't have a formal process spelled out in policy for doing redistricting. Our intent all along, as was clear from Mr. Worth's presentation, was to engage with stakeholders from the community, the affected communities, so Ocean Avenue, but also the Libbytown and Bayside communities in particular, to make sure that we have those voices heard and craft a recommendation coming back to the board around those key issues, which to me are what happens to the siblings that are currently there and the siblings of the siblings as they come up and are eligible for enrollment. So I think that's, and do we transport, do we not transport? So I think that those are the key issues, and I would envision that it would that it would make sense to have a committee of stakeholders, and I think that Board Member Thompson's recommendation makes a lot of sense to me. So,
Ms. Thompson.
I was just going to say, Ms. Vendel's question, our charge, and certainly the charge. Okay, I guess I have to pull it up. Our charge when we did the Ocean Avenue one, and certainly the charge for this one can change a little bit, but just to give you quick bullets, was to establish a school community that achieves a socioeconomic balance in which approximately 40 to 50% of students qualify for the federal free lunch program, to attempt to keep the Nathan Clifford student population together, to disrupt as few neighborhoods as possible, to keep other elementary schools viable and sustainable, and to make all decisions with regards to best educational practices and programs. So that was kind of the charge for that one at that time, but certainly we can look at what the superintendent and Mr. Worth have in mind for tasks out of the gate. Thank you.
Any other questions on the amendment? Ms. Morioni.
Question, sorry, never mind.
Okay. Any public comment on the amendment? Seeing none, any discussion on the amendment? Ms. Morioni.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say I would support the amendment only because when we worked on the Hall Building Committee work around enrollment for Hall, I don't recall that we actually added in moving the students into Hall, and I'd love to also have this committee to look just at the effects of the moving of students even into Hall to make sure we're sticking with our numbers of enrollment we had projected there. So I think a more ad hoc committee could be useful also as we hopefully move forward with the other elementary schools and their plans. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion, on the amendment? Ms. Vendel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be supporting the amendment. I think that it's a good idea anytime there's a conversation about changing the district boundaries, having stakeholders and parent representation. Of course, given that this was an amendment to an existing motion that staff proposed, I wanted to make sure that the superintendent and had the capacity, the staff had the capacity to prepare for this kind of work because it is work. So thank you, and I'll be supporting this amendment as part of the full motion.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment? None. I will call for a vote. All those in favor of, and Ms. Thompson, do you mind just stating the amendment for us?
Consideration action to approve the proposed extension of the Ocean Avenue Elementary School OAES enrollment management plan for the 2017-18 school year and direct the superintendent and board appointments committee to appoint an ad hoc committee to develop a plan for the redistricting of the areas under the Hall Elementary and East End Community School boundaries. This plan is to be submitted to the board for approval no later than March 3rd, 2018.
Thank you. All those in favor? Unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. Now back to the main motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the proposed extension of the Ocean Avenue Elementary School Enrollment Management Plan for the 2017-2018 school year and direct the Superintendent and Board Appointments Committee to appoint an ad hoc committee to develop a plan for the redistricting of the areas under the Hall Elementary and East End Community School boundaries. This plan is to be submitted to the board for approval no later than March 3rd, 2018. Please indicate. Unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. Okay, now on to consideration and action to approve the resolution affirming employees' speech rights. Is there a motion? Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Morioni. And do we have a presentation on this motion? Ms. Vendel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the first of 3 resolutions that I've put forward that had been sort of a response for around the events that have surfaced in relation to the January 27th hate crime attack targeting 4 Casco Bay High School students, the superintendent's open letter to the community, and the Unity Rally that was organized by high school students. This is the first of 3 resolutions that I felt was important for us as a board to, in a public forum, be able to address and the concerns that have been raised around student safety, staff support on talking about political issues, and to be able to do that in an environment where we have an opportunity to send a strong message out to the community. So the resolution to affirm employee speech rights was emerged was developed out of concerns raised by teachers and administrators who brought to my attention their struggle on how to best support students in talking productively about the challenging social environment that we're in right now. So this resolution affirms existing school policies on employee speech rights, and it also puts a positive, affirming language in support of our staff and educators in their role as advocates.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion?
Wait, public comment on?
On the motion in front of us, which is consideration and action to approve the proposed resolution affirming employee speech rights. Okay.
Sorry.
Please state your name
My name
and
is Jen Carter. I live on Edgeworth Avenue. I just want to thank you. I think this is a really good idea. I want to thank you for doing your job. My daughter attends Longfellow. Well, I heard on the radio somebody accusing you of not doing your job, and I really want to express my gratitude as a parent. I'm a white woman. I'm a single mother. I'm raising a child of color. She's in 3rd grade at Longfellow Elementary School, and I am constantly afraid. And right now in this political climate, I'm especially afraid. And so to see the letter that you put forth, not only that you put it forth, but also that you did it so speedily, I think sometimes we get, I'm an educator too, sorry I get nervous, we get flack for doing anything, right? Everything's political. Saying nothing would have been political, and you also wouldn't have been doing your job. So I want to thank you, and I think that this is really important, so I hope that you approve it.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? Ms. Thompson?
I'm sorry, and I should have asked it during questions. We had brought it up during the workshop with regards to the superintendent looking at other policies that may be affected, such as staff use of computer usage for political, discussing things of political nature and so on and so forth. And they, so I think we need to look at some of those policies, and I just want to make sure that that's in line. It looks as though that in the preamble that Drummond and Woodson put in there is that you would be addressing any policies that needed to. Is that correct?
That is, and I think that's a great segue to just be able to say that all 3 of the resolutions that you're considering today have been reviewed by legal counsel, by Drummond Woodson, and they conform to law and policy. I think there is a statement at the bottom of the resolutions that is self-explanatory, but basically speaks to the fact that these are resolutions that express the sentiment of the board, but they are not policy or rule by themselves. And so there is specific language in those policies that directs us to review existing policies, to add policies, to revise policies, to implement procedures, to implement programs that will operationalize the intent that's expressed by these resolutions. So there is work that follows these resolutions. It's not just the resolution and we're done. There's work that follows that for this one and for the others as well.
Thank you. Any other board discussion? Ms. Morioni?
Thank you, Madam Chair. With discussing this resolution with staff, it was a recommendation or request to change the title of the resolution to condemn hate speech and violence and support for our Muslim student. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Which one are we on? Oh, I'm sorry. When we get to that one, I'll make an amendment. Apologies. I'm excited to support this resolution as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the motion? No more comments? Okay. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the proposed resolution affirming employee speech rights, please indicate. It's unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. Now, consideration and action to approve the proposed resolution condemning violence and hate speech, expressing support for our Muslim students. Ms. Mendel, I'm sorry, is there a motion? Ms. Morioni, seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. Ms. Mendel, would you like to speak to this one?
Yes, Madam Chair. This resolution in particular is near and dear to my heart because this was actually inspired by the student leadership that was demonstrated by the human rights class from Deering High School and the civil rights class, civil rights team from Portland High School, as well as the amazing students who rallied Casco Bay with the march in solidarity for the students. I had an opportunity to put this resolution and work with the students from the human rights class and get their feedback on an affirmative, strong statement of support to condemn what happened, violence, hate speech, support for our students, in particular our Muslim students, and who are also living in an environment, in a community where in the last 6 months we've had a growing amount of anti-Muslim threats and sentiments, such as the vandalism at a Muslim-owned business on Christmas Eve in Portland, anti-Muslim graffiti that was found in November at University of Southern Maine, and a written threat that was found in a Westbrook apartment complex in August. So the confluence of all of these incidences of hate, as well as our students being physically assaulted, in a racially motivated attack, and our students coming together and leading a response. This is a resolution that was meant to express the sentiment that we as a board, as a school community, have the students back. We have our students back, and that we are, we aim to ensure that all students feel welcome and safe.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Ms. Morioni?
Appropriate time, I'd like to offer an amendment.
Okay. That would be during discussion. Is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, is there any discussion on the motion? Ms. Morioni?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I was starting to explain earlier after speaking with staff, particularly our esteemed Dr. Ahmed, who's our assistant principal at Deering High School, having a lengthy discussion with him, he would like, as well as I would like, to propose a change of adding support for our Muslim students and staff, and to make all of the language in the resolution say students and staff. So I can read the full change if you'd like, but...
Okay. Is there a second? Mr. Eder? Are there any questions on the amendment? Ms. Hatzenbuehler?
So it reads, safe haven for students, staff, and families?
For students and staff.
Oh.
And
Oh,
that
okay.
language
Yes.
would be throughout.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Any other questions on the amendment? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the amendment? Seeing none, is there any board discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of changing the language so that the full motion would read, consideration and action to approve the proposed resolution condemning violence and hate speech, expressing support for our Muslim students and staff. Please indicate. It's unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. Back to the main motion. Is there any discussion? Ms. Seeliger?
Well, I'd like to propose another amendment to this. I really like this motion, but for board discussion, I'd like to add under the first whereas board policy prohibits discrimination because of race, color, sex, sexual orientation, religion, ancestry, or national origin, age, disability, genetic information. I would like to add the words transgender status, political or economic status to the motion, and I can explain myself further if anyone would like.
Okay. Is there a second? Ms. Bendel? And are there any questions on the motion? Ms. Bendel and then Ms. Thompson.
I just wanted to clarify, maybe the superintendent can answer this. Would the language that Ms. Seeliger has offered, would that is that language inclusive to board policy AC?
I would have to look at policy AC, but I think we took this language directly from the policy as it currently exists, so I don't believe that those other categories that Ms. Seeliger just pointed out are actually a part of the policy. I don't disagree with the intent with it. It's just not. It is not a part of the. It is not a part of the current policy.
Ms. Thompson?
I'm just wondering, to the superintendent's point, we already have in this whereas sexual orientation, and I think that covers all classifications with sexual orientation, to call out, transgender by itself, because there are other sexual orientation around. I'm not wording it correctly, but I think that covers that.
It does
not?
No.
I don't.
Okay.
Believe that it would be about gender identity.
Yeah. And as we discussed at the last meeting when we dealt with the transgender issue, there is the need to establish policy that is going to be taken up by Ms. Seeliger's committee on transgender issues specifically. So I think that we will in time have the appropriate language to bring to other policies such as AC, but at this time we don't. That language does not exist in our current anti-discrimination policy.
Okay, so then, thank you, Ms. Bendel, for bringing that, educating me. Our policy AC, our policy AC does not currently state it that way. To your point, we lifted it exactly the way. So this statement wouldn't be a true statement because we haven't amended policy AC. So this makes this statement not accurate.
Not in that particular place. Again, it doesn't mean that it can't be inserted in a different place in a different way, but that would not be appropriate to put it under policy AC, but because it would ascribe something to policy AC that's not there.
Mr. Eder?
Thank you. I'll be supporting this addition because given that we will be taking up particularly transgender, this would be in keeping with what I feel certain we will pass as a policy committee and a board eventually. So, and I do think, I do like the other statuses as well. I know that quite a few children, regardless of their race or gender or orientation, are victims of bullying over income. And so I'm glad to see that addition, and I think it's a thoughtful one.
Thank you. Are there any still on clarifying questions? Ms. Thompson?
So I guess back to because we obviously can't make the change here because it's not a true statement. So I would ask the superintendent where he would propose, if it was to be added, where would we put that? I was just trying to look at that with Ms. Morioni and trying to find a home for it.
I don't know. I think I need to capture, I know I picked up transgender status, political or economic, but then I missed the rest of what that.
Yeah, I was thinking because someone had pointed out that AC currently does not talk about transgender status, political or economic status. I don't know if we can just say, whereas the board prohibits discrimination without saying AC. But yeah, but the 3 words I wanted was, 3 sections was transgender status, political or economic status. Put in there specifically because I think we need to talk about intersectionality, like Mr. Eater said, as it relates to race and class and economics.
Ms. Hassan?
I would like to just add on for like room for improvement for the board, because I keep hearing the transgender issue or the transgender problem, and I think that that's not the true intent behind it, but terminology is huge, and what we convey here is what's going to be conveyed to our public, and so I think that's just room for improvement. So thank you.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing now, Ms. Seeliger, would you like to change your amendment so that it reads, board policy prohibits?
Yeah, if that's still,
and I guess I would ask the seconder of your motion if that's.
So, and can I just comment on that? Again,
is that still incorrect? Would that still be incorrect?
It says policy,
technically?
so
yeah.
Whereas, you know, I mean, I'm trying to figure out a way to do that. Whereas it's the board's intent to prohibit discrimination or something along those lines, and then that opens it up so that you can change policies in time to reflect that. So this, you know, as we've talked about, the resolutions are about expressing the board's intent, and then the work that follows is making adjustments to policy. So I would suggest something along those lines.
I like that.
Okay. So could I maybe just ask you to read that in its entirety, and then we'll ask if that's acceptable to Ms. Seeliger as well as Ms. Vendel, who seconded.
So it would be the third bullet in the resolution would change to whereas. It currently says, whereas board policy AC, we would strike board policy AC and replace it, whereas it is the board's intent to prohibit discrimination. So we'd have to also adjust prohibit. And then just, it would read through because of color, race, because of race, color, sex, sexual orientation, religion, ancestry, national origin, age, disability, genetic, genetic information, comma, transgender status, political or economic status.
Ms. Vendel.
I'm very cautious about putting language in about about intention, and maybe we should just explicitly say that we, the board, does not condone discrimination. And then just remove the policy AC. We'll work on the policy work in the policy committee, and I believe there's also another resolution that that would be affirming gender identity and in support of our trans students that I believe that there's members of the board who are interested in submitting. So I think that's kind of the cleanest way to retain the strength of the intention.
So you would eliminate everything in terms of the named categories, or you would add those?
No. I would
just change the
board policy.
Whereas the board does not condone discrimination because of race, color, sex.
And then include Ms. Seeliger's categories. Yes.
Okay.
That sounds good too.
Okay. All right. So does everybody understand the amendment now? Okay.
Do we have a second?
Yes, it was Jenna's second. Ms. Vendel had seconded.
No, second.
Yeah, I got Jenna here.
So is there any public comment on the amendment? Seeing none, is there any board discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please indicate. It's unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. And we're back to the main motion. Is there any more board discussion on the motion? Ms. Morioni.
think I'm ready to speak. I just wanted to edit the dates so that they're reflected as January 18th, 2017, and then all of the dates basically have the year added to them, because when we're all gone from the board, it's reflected of which year this was.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we need to vote on that. Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the proposed resolution condemning violence and hate speech, expressing support for our Muslim students and staff, please indicate. It's unanimous with the students in the affirmative. Consideration and action to approve the proposed resolution affirming its commitment to the education of all children and making Portland Public Schools a safe haven for students and families. Is there a motion? Mr. Rodriguez, seconded by Mr. Eder. Ms. Vendel, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a resolution to affirm what is already in federal policies, which is the Supreme Court ruling Plyer v. Doe that no school district, no public school district is allowed to deny any child from a public free education regardless of their citizenship status or their status, the citizenship status of their parent or guardian. And so given some of the fears that I've heard from our immigrant and refugee communities about the uncertainty of, what will happen to their parents or relatives that they know, this is intended to be a strong statement to ensure that we, as a district, are following, the intent of Plyer v. Doe, that we have outlined guidelines for staff to follow in how to work with students and families in understanding and this information.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, is there any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the proposed resolution affirming its commitment to the education of all children and making Portland Public Schools a safe haven for students and families, please indicate. It's unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. Okay. Now on to new business. Consideration and action to accept the superintendent's FY18 budget and refer to the Finance Committee. Is there a motion? Is there a motion? Ms. Hatzenbuehler, seconded by Ms. Morioni. And the superintendent is going to give us a presentation.
Good evening, board members, members of the public. It's a pleasure to be able to bring to you our proposed budget for the fiscal 2018 school year. Our theme for this presentation and for our budget this year is building on our school's strengths to cultivate a high-performing system. Over the course of the presentation today, I think you'll understand why that is the theme of our presentation, and I expect that we will hearken back to themes that you've heard in previous presentations about the work that we're doing in the district currently, as well as the work that's envisioned as part part of our comprehensive plan. I would like to start by thanking the team that helped to put this budget together. As all of you know, this is a very intensive process that involves lots of people throughout the district, and so as we talk about our process later, I will recognize many others who have also been involved, but I would be remiss if I didn't start by recognizing Alicia Gardner, our new Executive Director for Finance, who walked in November and found this, sitting on her desk, and so has helped to guide this process amazingly, and so I'm very grateful to Alicia for her work. And then the core team that worked most closely with us, obviously Malia Nally, who you know is working as special assistant to me for this purpose. Malia started with us back in the fall, helping to pull together the comprehensive plan, and subsequently stayed on as part of her work is operationalizing that plan. And so, as you'll see today in our budget proposal, we are about trying to bring the plan into reality, and so that is a big part of what we've done. And so Malia has been a tremendous supporter and has really been the person that has kept us focused and coming back to the comprehensive plan throughout our work. And then Jeannie Crocker, Assistant Superintendent Crocker, who's not here with us tonight, as you know, because she had a death in the family, and so she is away this week. And obviously our hearts go out to Jeannie, and at the same time, this would not have been possible without her work. And even yesterday, in the midst of everything else that she was doing, preparing to go, she came in and helped us to put the finishing touches on the proposal. And then the last but not least person is Barb Stoddard, our HR director, and Barb is here. And Barb has also been a tremendous partner in helping to pull together our comprehensive plan and now our budget. So thank you to all of them, and thank you to all of the other people that have helped to put together this plan that we're going to be presenting to you today. This is the outline. These are sort of the sections of the proposal. We're going to set the stage. We're going to build some context about our budget by letting you know what our current reality is. We'll talk a little bit about our budget process and what came out of the engagement of our building leaders, our central office team, as we crafted this budget, and then turn to how we intend to do that given that reality that you will hear about in section 2, and then the bottom line, what does this actually look like and what does it mean? So let's start by setting the stage. You're obviously very familiar with our vision and mission. This is something that is central to the work that we do, something that was developed years ago by hundreds of people in this community, and that, again, represents, the ambitions and the aspirations of our community. And you're familiar with our goals. These are the goals that you approved back in December after our engagement on developing our goals for the comprehensive plan. So these are the things that we aspire to do and that we hold ourselves accountable for accomplishing. And so when we talk later about what it is that we're proposing to do with our budget, we will be coming back to these 4 goals as the central drivers of how we organize our thinking about the work. There's lots of strengths to build on. As you know, as a district, we compare very favorably with the state overall, even though our population is significantly more complex than the state. So you've seen this in previous presentations, that as a district, given that our performance is equal to that of the state, even though, as I said, our population is significantly more complex. And so that's a credit to the tremendous amount of work that's happening in the district and of particularly the work of our teachers and our students. And then we've also seen this before, that our district performance, and this is on the Maine Educational Assessment, compares favorably when we're looking at our non-free and reduced lunch students and comparing their performance to similar students in surrounding communities. You see that our students, again, are comparable or exceed students in some of those neighboring communities that in many cases do not have the same challenging population that we have. So I think the headline from this is that we do extremely good job with our students that are not free and reduced lunch. And Portland is an amazing community, as you know. Our students, in addition to that performance, have access to tremendous partners, tremendous opportunities that students in other communities don't have. And so it's important to remember that the value proposition for the Portland Public Schools isn't just that performance, but also the access to these amazing opportunities as well as the diversity of our community, which are all pluses and bonuses that our students have access to by virtue of living in this great city. And I also want to remind you that there's a tremendous amount of work that we still need to do. So this compares our students to the state again, but now it's broken out by our non-free and reduced lunch and our free and reduced lunch students. And the story here even tells a more clear picture, because you can see that our non-free and reduced lunch students, both in English language arts and in math, perform better than those same students do across the state, but very much a challenge that we are aware of and that we're proposing to tackle with many of the steps that you'll see later in our budget. Our free and reduced lunch students don't perform as well as those students do elsewhere in the state. And so that's clearly a challenge for us. We embrace that challenge, believe that we have the people and we need the resources to be able to get that work done. And so that's what this budget is all about. So let's take a step forward and look at our current reality. So when we started, what Alicia ran into as she rolled our budget forward. So this is basically enacting our agreed to contracts and proposed contracts, was that our increase over last year's budget was 4.5%. So from 103 million last year, 103.6 to 108.2 would be our budget if we just rolled it forward. And then that third column gives you some of the details. As you'll see, 94% of that increase is attributed to salaries and benefits. In the benefits are things such as the states passing on additional responsibilities to the district for the retirement benefits of many of our employees. So those increases in benefits as well as some of the escalating costs that we build into our health insurance coverage and things along those lines. So that gives you a picture. I do want to point out that we have a slight decrease in our debt service, and that helps to offset some of those other increases. So that's what would happen if we just went with the budget rolling it forward. So in addition to that, setting additional context about our current reality, the preliminary EPS estimate, the ED 279 that we received a couple weeks ago from the state, which implements the governor's proposed changes in education funding in the state, projects that we will lose $2 million in state aid. So our preliminary estimate for EPS is down from from 15.5 million to 13.5 million this year. And just to sort of detail what goes into that, and this is a high-level view of those changes because the governor's proposal includes approximately 50 changes to the EPS formula, but these are the most significant and relevant to us. Removal of system administration as one of the things that districts are reimbursed for. That nets us a loss of 1.5 million. There's an adjustment that removes current practice of penalizing a district for the Title I revenue that they get from the federal government, and that is removed in the governor's proposal, but in turn he increased the teacher-student ratios, and so that offsets significantly the benefit that we would attain from the Title I revenue adjustment. There's proposal to remove the declining enrollment adjustments, and that's about $1 million. And then there's a change in pre-K and kindergarten targeted funds, which nets us an increase of $445,000. So in total, the ED 279 that we received has us losing $2 million over what we received from state EPS funding last year. The budget that you will also see includes a reduction that we've assumed in state revenue for what is called the Maine Care Seed. This is money that the district bills to Medicare for services, to Medicaid for services that we provide to students, primarily students who are receiving specialized services. And currently we bill for that, and the state is implementing a new practice where we get charged a third of that, which is the portion that the state actually puts into Medicaid. Out of the other 2/3 are federal funds, and so basically it's withdrawing the state's investment in those students and penalizing the district for that. So we've built in the $420,000 cut that we expect to receive from implementation of that. And that's actually already being implemented, so this is not part of the governor's budget. This is a practice that's already in place. So just to illustrate what that looks like over time, this chart attempts to show what the overall budget was. That's the top line, and what it's proposed to be, and then what the portion of that is the result of state funding, which has gone from 15.9 million in FY15 to 13.5 million this proposed for this year. So you can see that the percentage of our revenue that's coming from the state is decreasing significantly. So with that, our goals as we looked at tackling the budget that we're proposing today, we wanted to do some maintaining, some investing, and also getting some reductions, understanding that the 4.5 was too high of a number coming in. So we wanted to maintain our quality experience for our students, so we wanted to preserve our class sizes to the extent possible. We wanted to retain effective programs. We wanted to be able to do this in a way that would be as seamless as possible from the student experience. And we also wanted to be able to invest in strategies that are aligned to the goal. So the things that we've reviewed before and you've approved are front and center in our mind, and we'll be talking about how we did that. And so we, at the same time, wanted to be able to reduce the rollover budget by $1.2 million. And so that's what we are presenting to you today. So just a quick step back to talk a little bit about our process. We had a great deal of input from our schools and our departments, and obviously used our comprehensive plan as a guide in this process. We engaged with all of our building leaders, with our departments, and the result of what we got is what you see up here. We had a total of 41 FTE requests that were presented to us that had varying degrees of support behind them, but again, these were heartfelt and necessary improvements that our leaders, our building leaders and department heads wanted to see put in place. So that was a total of $2.5 million and an additional $500,000 in non-FTE requests that were also presented by staff. So taking that would have brought us to an $111 million budget and a 7.4% increase. So we also identified some limited cost savings as we went through that process, but in the balance, it was obviously those targeted reductions were not anywhere near what was being requested. So to sort of try to put some labels on those requests, and to try to align them to our comprehensive plan goals, the things that were requested by schools were things like math coaching at the elementary and at the middle school, increases in our social work capacity across our elementary schools, focused solutions for our ELL students, particularly those students who are at levels 1 and 2, particularly at the elementary and at the middle school. And then there were specific requests, some of them had been in place for a number of years, to shift some Title I funded positions away from Title I funds that were not sort of over and above the activities that were being funded in other schools, and sort of shifting some of those positions from Title I funding to local. And then there were unique requests by many of our schools. They had, as I mentioned, a total of 41 FTE increases that ranged from from all of our schools and for various purposes. And so, again, those could be aligned to goals, but rather than try to spell out the 41, we just are capturing here as unique requests from several schools. And our comprehensive plan calls for specific investments tied to those strategies that we've shared with you before and that have been developed out. So what you see here is what are those strategies, and then the specific investments that we believe are called for as a result of those strategies. So ensuring that our tasks reflect learning expectations is one of our strategies, and so building our investment in content area support goes hand in hand with that. We have a strategy that calls for developing a district-wide intervention strategy, which we don't currently have, so our investment requests call for having an investment around that district-wide intervention strategy that deals with both academics, with equity, and with social emotional learning for our students. We have a strategy that calls for increasing the percentage of students who come to school ready to learn, and our investment is focusing on coming up with a tighter early childhood strategy for how we get to universal early childhood programs over time. We also have a strategy that calls for improving access to and use of data and strengthen our routines around that, and so our investment calls for building our data and research capacity as a school district. We proposed a strategy to adopt shared SEL outcomes and have comprehensive professional development across the district, and so our investment calls for trauma-informed and cultural competency professional development for our staff. Our strategy around strengthening family partnerships is obviously very evident today with the adoption of the policy, which calls for the establishment of structures within the school district that will continue to support the development of community and family engagement. And so that is a part of the investments that we're calling for. And we've talked before about the strategy that calls for designing and implementing a diversity recruitment strategy. And so our investment calls for the implementation of that strategy. So obviously, we went from the requests and that came from schools, as well as the investments that were called for in the comprehensive plan, and knowing that we don't have unlimited funds, we needed to do some problem solving and coming up with prioritizing those things and figuring out how we would address it. And so we are going to shift next into talking about some of those investment priorities and the 5 levers that we've accessed to allow us to do those things. So the investment priorities are in 3 categories. One is really taking a big step forward in our equity goal. And so in the budget, we have allocated resources to increase our English language learner supports with activities such as our new arrival center for recent arrivals. So this is a place where students that come into the district who are new to the country and need intensive support will be able to get that support until they're ready to move into their regular school environment. We are also proposing to build up the native language literacy of our elementary students, particularly in the lower grades, as an effort to really build on what they bring, which is the strengths in their native language, and leveraging those to increase their literacy skills and be able to be successful by the time that they get to 3rd grade. One of the key aspects of our equity is making sure that we know all of our students, and that all of our students know that somebody in the building knows about them, cares about them, and is focused on their well-being and their success. And so we're proposing investments on programs such as our Make It Happen program, which I know we've talked about before, as well as mentoring programs in our other schools to enable that adult connection, caring adults that are connected to our students. I talked briefly about the fact that our investment, that we need to make an investment in trauma-informed professional development for our faculty, as well as cultural competency for our faculty. And so those are things that, that are coming through as investment priorities for us, as well as trying to figure out how we can increase our social work capacity within the district. And then the last 2 pieces within those investment priorities that are tied to our equity goal is strengthening our family engagement strategy, and also supporting our adult education programming, which is absolutely, we look at our adult education programs as central to the district's equity work, because it not only supports adults, but it supports adults who are the parents of our children. So it's very important for us to make those investments. And then the 2 other areas are, one, our achievement goal, and so it's building out our content area capacity. So we're proposing to increase our coaching capacity across our elementary schools, and I'll talk briefly about that a couple slides from now, and how we achieve that, as well as creating math coaching capacity for both our elementary and our middle schools. Again, this was one of the overwhelming priorities that came from our conversations with building leaders. So those are the things that we're proposing to invest in around content area capacity. And then the last one, and I've referenced these as we walked through what the comprehensive plan calls for, is we need to be able to have the system-wide capacity to ensure that these things don't fall through the cracks. And so we're proposing to build up our data and research capacity, our ability to develop a strategy and coordinate and implement a strategy around social emotional learning, and creating a dedicated and focused set of resources around a system-wide intervention strategy. So, how do we do all of those things given our financial reality that you saw before? We identified 5 levers that we are looking to mobilize to be able to accomplish that. And so the first is to make some position and non-FTE investment reductions in areas that we believe don't compromise those values that I articulated at the beginning, which was retaining our student experience largely the way that it currently is. To do this, we're reallocating a lot of capacity. So you will see shifts in funding streams, the way that they're used, as well as reorganization of our existing capacity in ways that allow us to dedicate the resources to those things that we are prioritizing. And so Title dollars, our Title I, our Title II, our Title III resources are being leveraged in new ways to be able to allow us to do some of the things that we're attempting to do. And then, the reality is that we can't do this alone. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the amazing values of living in this community is that we have tremendous partnerships, that we have committed partners, that we have tons of people that really want to work with us and help. And so leveraging those external partnerships to add capacity to the district is one of the levers that we are looking to activate, as well as pursuing grant funding to support some of those priorities. So we're going to get a little more nitty-gritty around how that actually happens. So we're proposing to streamline our central operations in some very real ways. And so prior to the next board meeting, we will be meeting in executive session to walk through what some of those specific central operations realignments are, because that actually does affect individual and staff. So those are people that are doing jobs right now. And so we will absolutely need to make some adjustments to that. And so that is something that we will be addressing in an executive session coming up. We'll also adjust some school staffing where enrollment permits. So in places where we have natural drops in enrollment that allow us to make some school staffing adjustments, we're acting on those. We're going to propose a significant redesign of our academics team and the central team so that it's more closely aligned to the current goals and priorities. So again, when we meet in executive session, we'll be talking about those proposed changes to the academic team and the roles and the responsibilities that go with that. We're shifting our Title I dollars so that all of our elementary schools, with the exception, so all of our elementary schools that have over 35% free and reduced lunch will now be Title I eligible schools. So that means that Ocean Avenue and Lyseth and Hall are added to our roster of elementary schools that will receive Title I dollars. And we're shifting some of our Title II dollars as a result of some of those changes. We're able to shift some of those dollars to support the math capacity that I talked about earlier at the district level to support the work that's happening in our middle schools and in our elementary schools. I talked about the external partnerships. So we are currently working with our partners in the community to come up with a strategy that would allow us to increase our social work capacity across the district. So that is work that's currently in process, that we've engaged several community providers that are currently working in our schools, and we're looking for ways that we can actually have an increased social work presence in our buildings that's not dedicated to individual students, but is seen as seamlessly in the buildings as part of our staff that can be leveraged to do the work that our social workers currently do in our buildings. And we're also working with Starting Strong, the existing community coalition around pre-kindergarten, to develop a comprehensive strategy involving our district and partners. So one of the things that you will not see in the budget is a request for an increase in pre-kindergarten positions in the district. Instead, we are working with Starting Strong. We have resources in place through the Cohen Foundation to do a comprehensive mapping activity and needs assessment of the district so that we can have a coherent and long-term strategy around early childhood so that we can leverage the resources and the partners that currently exist in the community to help us do that work. And then we're actively working and going after grants that will help us to realize some of our vision, some of the things that are envisioned in the comprehensive plan. So we, as you know, have recently submitted a grant request to the Barr Foundation to help us with an alternative path at the high school level. We are currently in the process of pursuing United Way funding to support our trauma-informed system, as well as helping to establish a HiSET lab. That's the replacement for the GED test that's currently in place at adult ed. So this would be grant funding to help us get that off the ground and seed something that we believe will matter greatly for the families and for the students that are involved in adult ed. We currently have grants out to Cohen Foundation and Bangor Savings for our cultural competence training, and as you know, UNUM has been generous in supporting our communication efforts, which we will be coming forward with where we are with our communications work around the comprehensive plan at a subsequent meeting. So, the bottom line. So, let me just tell you the story behind this very cute picture. So, the slides that you're going to see are not pretty. And so as we were figuring out how to do this, Malia pointed out that there's research behind the fact that when people see cute, cuddly animals, they get in a really happy mood, and it makes them more receptive to the message. So I hope you guys like pugs, because what's coming next is not as cute as the pug. Steve, come on, have a heart. Quick, get me a cat. We also toyed with the idea of bringing puppies and having you hold them during the presentation, but then we were afraid that they would have an accident, and we didn't think that would be a... So, here we go. So pulling those levers, the 5 levers that we talked about, gets our spending increase down to 3.3% over what we spent in 2017. So that brings our spending up to $107 million and down from $108 million, 108 and change that you saw originally. Assuming that the governor's current, the ED 279 EPS funding that was provided to us by the state does not change, that results in a 6.5% tax increase that we are asking you to approve. Assuming that the new proposed school funding formula does not move forward, which, every conversation that we've had with the advocacy organizations, with our legislative delegation, is that, there will be a significant effort to change that. So when we just sort of apply EPS status quo, what it would look like if there were no changes, we anticipate that we would see a reduction of roughly $1 million. So that's half of the reduction that is currently foreseen in the governor's budget. And so with that, the tax increase would drop from 6.5 to 5.2. Do we need to go back and see the dog real quick? It's working? I can feel it. Okay. So this details what those changes look like. So you can see this is sort of recalls back to one of the early slides that showed you how the $108 million came to be, and this shows you what the $107 million has with it. And so you can also see where those changes are. About half of the changes are realized in salaries and benefits. The other half are realized in contractual services and miscellaneous. I think it's important to point out that the increased investment is largely going into schools. So there you see it by cost center in the budget, that those increases are largely located within our elementary, middle, and high schools. As you know, we started to shift our multilingual and special education investments out of the central cost centers and into schools. So those increases also capture the increases in our ELL investments and in our special education programming. This is something that you've seen before, just to remind everybody that the bulk of our funding, 80% of it comes from property taxes, and the rest comes from a combination of other revenue. So this pie chart shifts slightly from year to year. At its height in 2015, the 15 or 16, do you remember? In 16, the state portion of that was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20%, and the burden on taxpayers was less as a result of that. So just to walk through the spending trajectory, so you can see that our increase this year is, proposed to be $3.4 million, and that is not out of sorts with previous increases that you've seen. So in 2014 and 2015, the increase in spending was similar to that and on a smaller budget, so it was a larger percentage of the budget than what we are proposing this year. And then there's really no nice way to show this, that this is what the tax rate increase would look like given our current proposal. So you see that this year's tax rate increase, both just the increase with the governor's proposed EPS change is that 6.5%. It's a total of 67 cents on the existing 10.3 dollars that are currently assessed for every $1,000 of property value. So this is what it looks like, and you can see that this is much larger than what has been approved in the past. I think it's important to point this out because we started by talking about all of the tremendous value that we believe our students get for the investment that our community makes, a very generous investment that our community makes in our schools. And we just wanted to show you that that investment is not out of whack with neighboring and similar communities. So this shows you what we picked were municipal units like ours, where the city and the school district have their own separate assessments. We did not pick any of the combined districts, and you can see that our tax rates in Portland are, fairly consistent with those of many of our neighboring communities. Or not just neighboring communities, but communities that are similar to us in the size and composition and things along those lines. And this is the overview of the budget, which is at this point a recap of much of what you've already seen. You can see category by category. The 2017 budget at the top is what was approved. The proposal at the bottom, 170 million. I'm sorry, 107 million is the proposal, and that is the where the increases are reflected in the budget that you've received in each of those categories where there are increases or decreases that add up to the total $3.4 million increase that we're requesting in our expenditures. And then to the right, you see the general revenue picture, which includes the expected general revenue that we get from other sources, as well as state EPS and state debt service, as well as what the property tax request would be on our taxpayers when you subtract out the fund balance, which we're proposing to use $750,000 out of our fund balance, $500 out of the general fund balance, $250 out of the food service fund balance. And that results in a tax rate of $11 with an increase of 6.5% and an impact on the average single-family home, which is $250 of $170 a year. So, just to sum it up, we are working hard to build on our school's strengths and cultivate this high-performing system. And we believe that the budget that we're proposing helps us to take a big step forward to advance our equity goal, build our capacity to advance our achievement goal, and deepen our system-wide impact through coordinated strategy development across all of those goals. Thank you. Thank you. Can you have the puppy?
Okay. So the motion on the floor is to accept this budget and refer it to the Finance Committee. Are there any clarifying questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment? And again, this is not on the budget itself, but simply on referring it to the Finance Committee.
Stephen Sharp of Salem Street. I actually, in terms of referring it, need to say that that puppy ain't gonna do me any good, because it's the idea that you'd have a 6.5% increase in the tax rate is just absurd, and the committee needs to seriously look at whittling down this budget to something that the public can actually afford to pay, not what needs. I just want to note, on terms of the documentation, the committee needs a lot more information. Previous budget presentation packages had numerous pages that are missing from here, including staffing, enrollment projection for next year. It's fine to have the current enrollment, but we need enrollment projection for next year because that's what you're really funding your school system on, basing your funding on. And staffing is very significantly important. And also the list of grants, that's the addendum essentially to the budget that needs to be added to it so that you can fully see the complete picture of what the committee. And one other question, I don't even know who the chair of the Finance Committee is this year. So, Ms. Hatsonville, okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, is there any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the superintendent's FY18 budget and referring it to the Finance Committee, please indicate. Unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative? Ms. Vera, yes. And there are no personnel items tonight. There is no board focus on educational issues, and where it is before the hour of 10 o'clock, we will take public comment on any items not listed on this evening's agenda. Seeing no public comment, I will call for a motion for adjournment. Ms. Moriomi, seconded by Mr. Eder. All those in favor? It's unanimous with the students in the affirmative. And we do have a quick workshop following the meeting on committee goals for the year.